What is a hero? As kids, we knew the comic book definition. A hero was someone who donned a cape and used their superpowers to save the world. We watched them overcome great obstacles. We read as they brought hope and justice to humankind, and we looked up to them for their courage and their compassion. And then we grew up, and the question was no longer, what is a hero? But how do we become one? In these uncertain times, as we stand upon the precipice of change, how do we rise to the challenge of saving our world? How do we protect our planet from the forces of evil? Forces such as climate change, economic inequality, and disparities in access to healthcare and education. In short, how do we become the hero the world is looking for? While I may not have an exact formula for you, I can share some of the main ingredients based on some of the most inspiring stories of heroes that I have met at Sheraa. Let me introduce you to Caitlin Dolkart and Maria Rabinovich, founders of Flair. Imagine living in a world where you couldn't dial a simple 3-digit number like 911 in a medical emergency. Imagine having to call hundreds of different numbers to find an ambulance in the midst of a life-threatening situation. And then imagine what it must feel like to have to wait 3 hours for that ambulance to arrive. This was the reality in Nairobi, Kenya. But instead of accepting that reality, our heroes Caitlin and Maria worked to change it. They built Flair, an app that connects people to the closest emergency responders. Think of it as an Uber for ambulances. Today, Flair has helped emergency response times in Kenya go down from almost 3 hours to 15 minutes. In fact, after the horrific attack on a Nairobi hotel last year, Flair was at the heart of rescue operations. Thanks to the platform, the first ambulance was on the scene in 12 minutes. And then, within an hour, 20 ambulances had arrived to assist the injured. Caitlin and Maria saw the challenges of their community and felt called to help solve them. Now, let's move from Nairobi to Beirut, and I will tell you the story of Omar Itani, founder of Fabricade. Omar's mission began simply. He wanted to give away his clothes to those who could benefit from them. But those people were hard to find. He discovered that most unwanted clothes in Beirut ended up in landfills rather than in the hands of those who actually needed them. And so he launched Fabricade to give underprivileged communities access to high-quality, recycled clothing at an average price of less than $1. Fabricade has not only provided disadvantaged people with a dignified shopping experience, but it has also helped protect the environment by reducing fabric waste. When the Beirut explosion tore through his community earlier this year, Omar was also caught in the blast. He received over 140 stitches for wounds he sustained all over his body. After he recovered, he learned that one of Fabricade's stores was completely destroyed. At that moment, Omar had a choice. He could have given up, he could have walked away, but instead, he stayed and stepped up his support. He raised funds from donors around the world, and he used those funds to help entire neighborhoods rebuild their homes. At the same time, Fabricade continued to supply those communities affected by the blast. Today, Fabricade has sold more than 60,000 items of clothing to more than 7,000 beneficiaries. These stories perfectly illustrate the hero's journey, as famously described by Joseph Campbell. The first step on a hero's journey is a call to action. Caitlin, Maria, and Omar answered that call because they wanted to leave the world better than they found it. They were committed to a cause greater than themselves, and they refused to believe that they were too small to make a difference. That is how ordinary people create extraordinary impact. But there is one more ingredient in the formula for heroism. You see, every one of us can be a hero, but nobody can be a hero alone. Let's go back to the movies and comic books for a second. There is a recurring theme in these heroes' lives that we can draw from. Something that almost all of them have: guidance and support. Even in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, the very next step after the call to action is meeting a mentor. The Karate Kid had Mr. Miyagi. Captain Majid had Fawaz Rushdie. And Yoda, Luke Skywalker had. Mr. Miyagi, Fawaz, and Yoda were all characters whose real work was behind the scenes, not in the limelight. And yet without them, some of our favorite heroes might never have been. So as founders embark on their quest to become heroes, where do they find their mentors? Who will be their ally on their entrepreneurial journeys? We will, because that is the role we at Sheraa seek to play. We sense the passion in these heroes. We see their desire to create impact. Their potential is unmistakable, and we stop at nothing to help unleash it. Together, we build incredible businesses that honor the dignity of all people, that respect our planet, and that shape the future of our economies. And where do we find these entrepreneurial heroes? Simple. Look in the mirror and you will know.